Hello everyone and welcome to SkShadow. Welcome back to another episode of the F1 2020 My Team Career Mode. And this time we are going to Russia for the Sochi Grand Prix. And as you can see, we have a sponsorship renewal to deal with. So we can either stick with the same sponsors or have a look and see if there's any better options. So here I'm just looking through, seeing what their weekly income and goal bonus is. And then I decide the first one I'm going to go with is Sunburst, which is to complete a clean race. Obviously, we already had them anyway. And then the second one I go for is Alkene's Energy. So that's to complete a weekend without colliding with another vehicle, which should be generally quite easy to do. And then I sign with Q-Air again for completing a race with no DNFs within the team. So we keep two of the three sponsors we did have and replace one of them with Alkene's. But that does mean we are now bringing in 1.03 million a week guaranteed. Obviously, that goes up based on if we get the sponsor goals. But obviously, new sponsors mean we get to put them on a car. So that is what I've done, and that's what the result looks like. Yeah, and we have 2 days to plan some activities. So the one I go for is simulator training. That will give our teammate 1 extra experience point for the race. And then standings-wise, we are currently 6th and 8th in the driver standings, and then 6th in the constructors. And you can see that's just a rundown of our previous results. Obviously, our 2 podiums in a row. Would be nice for Stroll to possibly get some points, because our team's points are entirely consisted of me, apart from 1, which I got in like the first or second race, I think. So, at the end of the day, we can't expect too much though, because the car isn't really in the performance bracket to regularly get points. But we're into the weekend now, and Jeff has the weather forecast for us. And it looks like in the qualifying and in the race, it's going to be perfectly dry. So, no issues there. And Carl is here with an email telling us next year's regulations are going to have some changes, and they think it's going to affect multiple departments. So what that means is we're going to have to spend our resource points protecting some of the upgrades we've already done, so that they don't get removed going into next year. So that's why I haven't been spending too much on upgrades. But development wise, we are second to last still. Not much has changed other than Alfa Romeo seem to have jumped a little bit, and they're now closer to AlphaTauri, McLaren and Renault. So they're probably going to be a little bit faster going into this race. But I will do practice and then see you in qualifying. So we're into qualifying now. In practice, the car felt okay-ish. It's not the best track for this car. At the end of the day, in the development chart, we are second to last, so I'm not expecting huge amounts. And then we're only really good on the engine side. We're okay on the aero, and then chassis is terrible. So that includes weight distribution, brakes, etc. So heavy braking zones and right angle corners, which this track is full of, are not very well suited for our car. The only bit that is the first straight, pretty much, because it's long and we get to use our engine. But I did a 132.9, which is actually just over a tenth slower than Stroll. So I know there's definitely more pace to be found out there. So I go and do another run. As you see here, crossing the line, we're already about half a tenth up. And that's before even doing a single braking zone, so I must have just got a better exit from the last corner. But going into the first heavy braking zone, the first right angle of many on this track, we are about 1.5 to 2 tenths up now, so we're definitely finding pace. And then here we are about 2 tenths up, and that lowers a little bit, about 1 tenth now. An interesting thing as well, as you can see, we were below everyone, but now for some reason Russell's all the way down there, so maybe his lap time got deleted or something. But crossing the line, we go about 4 tenths up, and that puts us P17, so not quite into Q2. But you see Gasly in second, which is crazy. He's managed to put that AlphaTauri in second place in Q1. But yeah, we end up P17, 132.5, and Stroll didn't improve, so he's a 132.8.
Welcome along then to Sochi and the Russian Grand Prix, one of 8 cities in the world to play host to both the Olympics and a Formula One race. It's a Grand Prix that's proven difficult to crack for anyone beyond the first 2 rows of the grid in recent years, so let's see if that can change today. Situated just 3 miles from the Georgian border, the 3.6 miles Sochi Autodrome has 2 notable overtaking opportunities into turn 1 and then turn 13. 18 corners in total here, 12 to the right and 6 to the left, and it's an average lap speed of around 130 miles per hour. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Albon, Sergio Perez and Leclerc, Sainz, Ricciardo, Gasly and Roman Grosjean, Norris, Vettel, Daniel Kvyat and Ocon, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, the engineer and Kevin Magnussen, Ireland, Stroll, Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So Jeff wants us to do another top 10 finish. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that, considering we're starting P17 and there's no rain or anything. So unless there's a safety car, it's probably about where we're going to stay. But you've got the 5 lights out and away we go. We get a reasonable start, pretty average to be honest. Not dive bombing anyone just yet. So we've got Giovinazzi up ahead, we've got Ilott behind. We're just going on the inside of Giovinazzi now. You've got to remember that these Alfa Romeos seemingly look quite quick. You see the Haas over there absolutely dive bombed both Alfa Romeos and me and got ahead of them actually. Raikkonen got ahead quite quickly and now we've got Ilott trying to get past us. But going into this braking zone here, we do a dive bomb. We squeeze him out a little bit and we do manage to keep the position. So now we've got Ilott behind us and Giovinazzi behind him, so he hasn't done very well out of the first lap. Looking on the map at the bottom left, I think it looks like our teammate might be all the way at the back now, which is certainly not very good. But up ahead we've obviously got Raikkonen about half a second ahead, so if we stay within that we'll have DRS, but like I said, the Alfa Romeos are seemingly pretty quick, so they're probably going to start pulling away quite quickly.
Okay, we're monitoring somewhere on the ICE. Be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
So as you hear, Jeff has told us there is some engine wear on the ICE, which is the main engine, so that's going to make us lose power, which isn't great because the engine is about the only thing that we've got going for us in terms of our car. So having that losing power is certainly not good, as Ilott tries to dive down our inside, but he doesn't quite have it. But we go really wide, and that allows Ilott to get a much better exit off the corner and try and get past us. We squeeze him perhaps a little bit too much, and I think we make a little bit of contact. We don't get a warning for it though, so not really an issue for us, but I'm not sure if Ilott ended up with some damage.
DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you are within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone.
So the DRS is now enabled. We're nowhere near DRS zone of Raikkonen and he's already pulled ahead 2 seconds. So that's just going to help Giovinazzi try and get past us, as obviously he's within the DRS zone. Ilott has fallen behind Giovinazzi and Latifi and he's battling with our teammate at the moment, I think. So yeah, he certainly must have got some sort of wing damage from our contact because he is very slow, as Giovinazzi tries to go for a mad dive bomb down our outside there, but we do manage to out traction him and keep the position, all the while setting a couple of green sectors actually. So we are slowly finding some pace on this track, but this is Russia, so it doesn't really create the most exciting races as we go deep like we did last time, and that allows Giovinazzi to get ahead of us, and he also has DRS, so we're not going to be able to fight it. We think about potentially going for a massive dive bomb like he tried, but we are too far back for that, so wouldn't really have worked anyway. Obviously, if we can stick with him, we can stay in the DRS and hopefully use it and maybe stay with him. I don't think we're going to get past him, but if we can stay with him, then that we'd be able to capitalise on any sort of mistake or anything like that. But moving on to lap 8 now, you can see he's already 2.7 ahead. Raikkonen's 8.5. Stroll has now overtaken Ilott, but looking at the map, Ilott is miles back. So yeah, he definitely must have had some sort of damage. As you hear that our pit window is coming up in 2 laps time. You can see Stroll in P20, he's actually keeping with us. That is the main difference between him and Ilott, in my opinion. Yes, Stroll doesn't have the best qualifying, pretty much qualifying sort of similar to where Ilott was. But in the race, he does have race pace. He does stick with us. At the end of the day, in this track, we seem to be about the same pace as the Williams anyway. So not fantastic, but in general, he is sticking with us. If that was Ilott, he'd probably be miles behind by now. But it is our time to pit, as a load of other guys come into pit as well. And we take P13 for the time being. But obviously, when we go into the pits, we'll come out probably where we were anyway. As we go into the pits now. It's quite a long pit stop at Russia. And we're in, and our team does a 2-second pit stop. So pretty much the best we could ask for. Obviously we had a 1.9 a little bit earlier on in the season. But we get a 2-second pit stop there, which is more than fast enough. And we're out in P21. You've got Ilott behind us, who is very far behind us with his wing damage. You can see he's 32 seconds behind now. But Russell, Stroll, Latifi, Giovinazzi, Hamilton, they're all into the pits. Not sure why Hamilton is this far down, considering he qualified P2, I think. So why he's 16th and he's chucked on a set of hards, I've no idea. Maybe he got some sort of damage, wing damage, and it held him in the pits. But we have feeded out, well, we've resulted in P18. So we are now behind Giovinazzi, about 0.5 of a second. So we've definitely gained time in our pit stop, because we were about 2.5, 3 seconds behind before all of that. And we're now about 6 seconds ahead of the guys behind us. So our 2 seconds pit stop, along with us pushing on our in-lap and out-lap, has certainly helped us try to gain some time. As you can see, we didn't actually end up with DRS going into this bit, which is quite annoying. Because we weren't actually quite within it, but we do get DRS now, so we're using all the DRS, all the overtake, but we are just too far behind. Once again, I don't think we'll be getting close enough to overtake, but the longer we can stay within DRS, the more we can keep up. But already on lap 14, going down the main straight, we are now 1.5 behind Giovinazzi. Still around 5.5 to 6 seconds ahead of the guys behind, so that's Latifi and our teammate Stroll. And here I've just sped up the footage a little bit, because it is pretty much this for most of the rest of the race. So we're keeping on pace, setting a couple of green sectors every now and then, but pretty much it is just us being about 1.5 to 2 seconds behind Giovinazzi and about 5.5 to 6 seconds ahead of the guys behind. Although you can see that Stroll has managed to overtaken Latifi now, so he is ahead. If he can stay there, that would be good for us to finish 18th and 19th. As much as that wouldn't be great, as we do go very, very wide there, and we do lose quite a bit of time, as we're now 2.5 behind Giovinazzi, and our teammate is actually about 3 seconds behind us. So we've got 7 laps left. We could end up in a bit of a battle with our teammate, which would be interesting. Don't know how I'd play it. If I'm slower, I might give the position up, you know, a bit of team orders, but we'll have to see if that happens as we go down the straight, and we clip the wall a little bit and we get a puncture. As well as a puncture, we've actually got a little bit of front left wing damage, so that, this race has certainly not gone well. And I move out the way of our teammate and Russell, who are fighting now, and then Latifi, I don't know how he ended up so far behind, but he is, as well as Ilott is like 44 seconds, but we've now got to try and get all the way to the pits, as we do. And then look how slow we are crawling into pits. We're going 7 miles an hour. Now this bit where you go into the pits is not controlled by me, that's controlled by the game. there's nothing I could do about that. You don't drive into the pits yourself, unfortunately. But we are going so slow into the pits. We are losing so much time. Eventually, once we get onto the straight a bit, it does actually speed up. But we're into the pits now. We are changing onto a new set of softs as well as a new front wing. Obviously, that's going to take a lot longer than normal. An 8.1 second stop, but the actual pit stop overall, because of how slow we were entering it, the whole pit stop took just under 50 seconds, which is madness. It's sort of reminiscent of that time when Hamilton lost his front wing and went across the grass to go into the pits, and they weren't ready for him. And he had one of the longest pit stops in F1 history, not including refueling, obviously. But that has put us out. That has put us out P22, so last, and 40 seconds behind Ilot. As you heard there as well, our teammate Stroll apparently has some sort of issue. So hopefully it's not too bad. Otherwise he'll start going down the rankings. I mean, he can't go much worse as he's already P19. But we do set a time which is about 1.3 seconds faster than our previous best lap. And you can see we are chasing down a car ahead, which is the Haas of Magnussen, I think, who has lapped us. So unfortunately, that is not Ilot in P21, because he is still 33 seconds ahead. That is the Haas of Magnussen. So pretty much the only thing I'm thinking of now is just to hammer time pretty much and try and unlap myself from him. It's pretty much the only sense of gratification we can get from this race. To be honest, I was thinking of just retiring the car when we had the problem with the puncture, because at the end of the day we were going to be last either way. But then I remembered that one of our sponsor payouts is actually to have no DNFs within the team, so I didn't really want to lose the potential of, I think it's what, 300,000 or something, just to retire the car. As you see there on lap 25, we do finally catch up with the Haas and get past him quite easily, actually, with a helping hand of DRS and overtake. But we are still 30 seconds behind anyone else at all. As you can see, our teammate is over 1 minute and 14 seconds ahead of us. But rounding the corner for our final lap, lap 26, we bring it home in last place. And there we are, P22. We actually did get a best lap time of a 1:34.2, which I did have a look, and that's the second best of anyone. Only second to Bottas, who finished a race in P1. It was a bit odd that we didn't have any DNFs at all. So it's a boring race in terms of racing and also in terms of any sort of retirements, but that drops us to P7 in the driver standings, and we're still P6 in the constructors for now. As you see, we did get all of the sponsor money, so we got an extra 1 million there for all the goal bonuses we hit. But yeah, that is the end of today's episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that fantastic action. Next up is the Japanese Grand Prix. It looks like we do have a few upgrades coming to then, so hopefully the car will be a bit better for us. But yeah, other than that, that's it from me. Good night.